Welcome to Getting Neighborly in Fairview, Texas, the official community podcast for the town of Fairview, hosted by the Fairview Economic Development Corporation. On every episode, we spend time getting to know our neighbors and hearing the stories that make our town a community. This is Getting Neighborly in Fairview, Texas. Well, howdy, friends. Thank you. This is your host, Super Dave Quinn, and I'm glad to have you join us today. Today, I've got a special guest, a Fairview resident, Joe Groh, who is Joe, you're with the Joseph Groh Foundation. It says on your website, a beacon of hope. And
Yes.
I actually came across the foundation or you yourself from a Google alert that I got from Fairview, where your organization had done something, and then there was a press release, and you had helped someone who was in need. So I'm really, excited. And once I got dug into it and started reading about your organization and your story, it's truly inspiring. And I always say that's why this podcast was created, was because there are some truly incredible people here in Fairview, Texas. And I just am so honored to be able to get to know them through this format or this medium. If you don't mind, Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a little background on the foundation that the Joseph Groh Foundation.
Absolutely. Well, my background is in the HVAC, heating and air conditioning industry, and I started back in the mid 70s working for contractors installing residential and light commercial equipment. And there was an opportunity to move up to Chicago. I was living in Northern Illinois. There was an opportunity to move up to Chicago with Lennox Industries for a inside sales position. And that led to a 21-year career with Lennox that had our family move from Chicago to Columbus, Ohio, down here to Dallas, then over to Charlotte, North Carolina, and back to Chicago. So we had a lot of opportunities with Lennox throughout those 21 years. And then at that point, I left Lennox and joined a distributor, which was based in Chicago and had operations throughout the upper Midwest. I did that for a couple of years, but we decided we liked the Dallas area and wanted to get back down here before our children started high school. So I looked for and found an opportunity with a company called Titus, which is based in Richardson, and they are a manufacturer of air distribution equipment. And I joined them as director of product development. Did that for about 7 years, and then an opportunity over in Fort Worth arose as vice president of sales and marketing for a company called PCI Industries, and they are one of the leading manufacturers in the air control side of the commercial HVAC industry. And so we moved over to Grapevine as part of that opportunity. And that was where we were living when I had a bicycle accident in June of 2008 that caused me to become paralyzed from the shoulders down. And about 6 months after I was initially injured, I went through a period of time where, I was hospitalized in and out with various maladies, sepsis, and among other things. But when that finally settled down, that I was only 53 years old, and I had to decide what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I'd been the beneficiary of what I would call an extraordinary situation. There was a neighbor across the street from us in Grapevine who was extensively involved with the physical therapy world over in Grapevine. And he knew a lady by the name of Joey Wilkins, who was part of the Grapevine, city of Grapevine. And she was also paralyzed. And she ran a foundation called the Joey Wilkins Foundation. And they were dedicated to helping individuals in the city of Grapevine who had become paralyzed. And so he approached her about our situation and while I was still in Parkland in intensive care and then later in rehab, our neighbor worked with my wife and with the foundation, and they came into our home and remodeled the bathroom for a roll-in shower and widened doorways and installed entry ramps. And you don't think of things like this, but had they not come in and done that, I would not have physically even been able to get back into our home. And that was such a powerful experience that as I thought about what I was going to do with the rest of my life, it occurred to me that, I was a part of the construction industry. I had some nationwide contacts. And so I contacted a number of friends and family members and shared my ideas, and they shared my passion. And so that's what led us to start the foundation.
Man, that is an incredible mindset to someone who's vibrant, used to being active, going to a situation where now you're not that person anymore. What was that like? How were you able to move from who you were before to who you were after the accident? Was that a challenging mindset shift for you?
Well, I was fortunate in that I had a very extremely supportive family, and my wife was right there beside me every step of the way, and she still is. And I once heard a Methodist minister talk about what it takes to overcome serious obstacles in life, and the three things he mentioned resonated very strongly with me, and those three things are your background and how you were raised. Another is your support network, and a third is your faith. And um, I drew on all three of those things, and that's what enabled me to start the foundation. And I found that the best way to overcome mentally a situation like that is to look outward, look beyond yourself. And when you do that, that causes you to think differently and to, you know, take the focus off of yourself and and try and move out into a more productive environment.
That's true. It's interesting, right? When to help yourself by helping others is the answer. So talk to me a little bit about the foundation or the move over to Fairview. You started that in Grapevine. What's your path to Fairview? How did you become one of our neighbors?
Well, when we were living in Grapevine, when we first moved over there, we have three children, and two of them were still at home. And we had a two-story house and grass that needed to be mowed and a pool that needed to be maintained. And you know, once
All the
I got
joys of
injured,
homeownership.
right. So, but once I got injured, then it became more difficult for my wife to take care of all that, and that was assisted by the fact that one child graduated from college and moved away and got a job, and our daughter had a college basketball scholarship, so she moved out of state, and we decided that we needed to find more suitable living arrangement. So we looked around. We were looking at two areas at the time. We were looking at the Grapevine Colleyville area, and then we were looking at central Collin County because we had lived in Plano previously for about 12 years. So we were looking at the Plano, Allen, McKinney area, and we were looking for um, builders who could deliver on a very specific set of needs that we had. And we found such a builder in Fairview. At the time, they were building the Cypress Crossing subdivision. And frankly, I'd never heard of Fairview at the time. Had to look up where it even was. But when we went over and met with the builder and looked at the area, we found three things that were extremely appealing. The first was the subdivision itself and the fact that David Weekley was building the homes here, and they were willing to work with us to modify the floor plan to meet our requirements. And the second was accessibility to not only shopping and doctors and those sorts of things, but also proximity to um, Central Expressway and 121. We had learned when we were in the Chicago area the importance of, living in close proximity to major highways. But the third thing we found was really unexpected, and that is the country charm that you find in Fairview. For example, where we are in Cypress Crossing, when we pull out of our subdivision along Meandering Way, there's a ranch there that where you regularly see, longhorn cattle, and I don't know how much longer they're going to be there, but that's an unexpected charm to find 2 miles from major shopping, and we found that to be true all over Fairview as we got to know the area better, and so we couldn't have been happier with the area and with the selection of Cypress Crossing.
Joe, that's it's kind of my little secret. I love working here in Fairview because whenever I get caught up in the craziness, and I just every now and then you just need a little mental break. I drive over and have a conversation with those longhorns, and just sit and ponder that and the life of just grazing on grass there. I love that that little piece of Fairview. That's one of my favorite things to do. So you moved over to Fairview. You've come into the neighborhood. Tell me a little bit about the foundation and how you connect with people in need. What does that process look like?
Well, what we wanted to do was to focus on the needs of individuals who have worked in the construction trades, but for any reason whatsoever are now living with a serious life-altering disability. And the reason for that is that in my family, there are about 12 people or so through 4 generations now that either have worked or currently are a part of one of the construction trades. And so I wanted to be able to give back to an industry which has been so prolific in the life of our family. So that's the reason we wanted to focus on individuals from the construction industry. But based on the experience that we had had in Grapevine, we wanted to have the means whereby we could provide people in need with things like wheelchair accessible vans, home and bath remodels, rehabilitation equipment, assistive technology equipment, things of those nature, things that are expensive and things that insurance won't pay for. And the way we do that is by there are 2 industry events that serve as fundraisers for us every year. And in addition to that, we hold 3 golf tournaments, one in the Dallas area, one in the Chicago area, and one in Minneapolis. And between those 5 events, that provides the means by which we're able to provide funding to individuals. But there are 2 other aspects of the foundation that are important as well. And one is the information side of things. When I originally was injured, within weeks, doctors were asking us, where are you going to go to rehab? Well, we had no idea about rehab or what was involved. And so we found it challenging and frustrating to try and find answers to all of our questions. So we wanted to try and make that easier for others. And we do that through the links section of our website. There are links to about 200 different websites across 12 platforms of information for people or that are either injured or their caregivers. And we're adding to that all the time. And then the third thing is, when people incur a serious life-altering injury, their income is obviously dramatically affected. And in many cases, it it drives them into bankruptcy. And, we're seeing shades of that right now during the pandemic. And so what we wanted to do is to find, encourage pathways to short and long-term disability for employees, particularly of small contracting businesses who would not have access to that otherwise. So those are the three things that we have endeavored to accomplish in our foundation over the past 11 years.
And Joe, I just want to mention, if you're listening to this, we're going to put the website. We'll have that in the show notes. It's Joseph Groh Foundation. So it's Joseph, and then Groh is Groh Foundation.org. But we will list that for those listening that want more information. You have an incredible website. I'm also read where you're actually an author, and tell me about the books there that I see on your website.
Sure. I've always loved to write. It's been a personal passion of mine. And I decided a couple of years after my injury to write about my experiences in overcoming obstacles and how our family dealt with that. And so that led to my first book, which is entitled From Two Wheels to Four.
Yeah, I love that title, by the way.
My son actually came up with that, and it was only a couple of years later that I really got to look at my wheelchair, and there's really 6 wheels there, but that's okay. and then the other book that I wrote is called Stepping Up, and there are a collection of 3 other authors besides myself that there's just a lot of when you're in a situation like the one I'm in, there's just a lot of interesting experiences that you come across that you wouldn't otherwise have. And some of those are inspiring. Some of those are funny. Some of those are maddening. But they're experiences that disabled people have that we wanted to be able to share with the world at large. And so I entitled that book Stepping Up.
That's I have a good friend in Frisco, and she is in a similar situation, and I watch her daily life. She posts a lot, and just it's a different set of challenges that I think people who are not in that situation sometimes just take for granted, or things are just we don't necessarily see them with the same eyes, and so I would bet that would be a true eye-opening experience to read that book. How would, if your neighbors are hearing this and they want to get involved or they want to help, what are some of the ways that they can connect with you and help your mission? What are some of the things you're needing, or what are some of the things that you would like for people to offer when it comes from a helping situation?
There are several things. First of all, of course, donations are always appreciated, and that can be done through our website on the donate page. We are planning a golf tournament this year. Right now, it's scheduled for the first Monday in May. Because of the pandemic, we may end up moving that back to the fall. But if people are so inclined and they like to golf, they can be a part of our golf tournament. The Dallas tournament is our largest fundraiser of the year. And another program that we are launching later this year is a subscription program that we are calling Luminaries. And so we will be making an announcement about that in the next sometime later this quarter. And so people can be a part of our foundation and actually be involved in podcasts and other things that we will be putting out by becoming a luminary, which is basically a subscription donor type program.
Well, that's exciting. When you get ready to push that out, we would love to. I'd make the offer that you give us that information so that we can push that out and give our folks here in Fairview the opportunity to learn about that. We'll definitely want to help spread the word on that.
Absolutely. Appreciate that.
Is there things with your time here in Fairview that that it seems like you have stuff all over the country? Is that challenging, managing that from Fairview, or are you able, or how are you able to do that when or it's a nationwide? In fact, the article that I found wasn't even from Texas. I believe the person was from the Northeast. I can't remember exactly where, but talk to me about being able to manage this type of foundation and nationwide footprint from here in Fairview.
Well, thus far we've been able to help individuals in 30 states, including Texas, of course. But we have contacts all around the country. In terms of the admin side of the golf tournaments, we have basically committees in each of those cities that help us run it on the day of the tournament. But a lot of that is with the miracle of technology. Believe it or not, I'm able to do a lot of that from being in bed, because that's where I spend most of my time. But I have voice activated software and a computer, and so with that I can manage quite a bit of that. We also have board members who can do a lot of the legwork that I can't do. But between all of that, wouldn't be possible without technology, but that certainly makes a huge difference.
Well, I am just blown away. And again, when I came across your website and started digging into what you're able to do and what you're doing, it's just very impressive. Especially, I like to consider myself someone who has a pretty positive mindset, but obviously have not ever faced a challenge similar to yours. And I hope that, if that ever happens, I would be able to do it. It's a very inspiring story. And I just want to say thank you for, taking a few minutes of your busy day to speak with us. I know, unfortunately, we're not able, because of COVID, to do this face to face, and I like to do those face to face, but I do appreciate the time and the story. Any last words for the residents, or is there? Do you speak for? I could see where you would be a very inspirational, speaker, or you could deliver that. Do you do those kind of events or things that for people, or is there other ways that people, if they need help, to find you? What does that look like?
Well, the easiest way, obviously, is through our website. Is the best way to contact us and find us. But I know, for example, in our subdivision, I'm on our HOA board, and one of the things that we really believe in is, a lot of times HOAs, have a negative connotation with people, because the only thing they know about their HOA is, the nasty warning letter that they got because there were some weeds in their yard. And so we believe that HOAs can be a force for good in a neighborhood. And so we try to, pre-COVID, we would bring our community together down at Cypress Park, which is a town park that's located inside our subdivision. And we would have, hamburger cookouts, or have an ice cream truck come over, or whatever. But at the same time that we're getting people together, we also want to use those opportunities for people to become aware of more broadly what's going on in Fairview. And so we always invite, say, town council members. We would have Mayor Culbertson come over. We've had Mayor Lessner come over and just talk with the residents about what's going on in Fairview, and we can have an open dialogue about things that we are concerned about, things we agree on, things we don't agree on. But it's a great opportunity to talk directly with town officials about what's going on, and it helps make, I think, everyone in our community, gives them the opportunity to become more aware of what's going on here in their own town. And so that's something that we want to continue. And we're doing that now through neighborhood Zoom meetings, since we can't, do it face to face for a little while.
Well, and that's how, the power of technology, right? That's how we're doing this interview now. And Joe, again, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the town. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being a resident. We appreciate the kind words that you mentioned today, and we do appreciate the difference you're making in the world. And that's really what this Getting Neighborly podcast is about, is getting to know the neighbors, the men and women in Fairview who are, through their just daily activities, making a difference in our world. And it sounds like you're doing that in spades. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time and willingness to visit with us.
Appreciate your time, Dave, and thanks for inviting me on today.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Getting Neighborly in Fairview, Texas. If you're a business owner interested in calling Fairview home, contact our office by email at edc@fairviewtexas.org or visit us on the web at fairviewtexasedc.com. And if you're a resident and you know someone we should hear from, nominate them at fairviewtexasedc.com/neighbors.